is Ms. Pratt, Master and other members of the STAR Industry Group. In today's interconnected world, educational technologies has emerged as a powerful tool for driving transformative changes in the field of education. While developed countries have already embraced this trend, developing countries face numerous challenges in implementing educational technology in their institutions. This presentation aims to shed light on these challenges and provide viable solutions, also drawing on real-life examples, quotations, and statistical evidence. So our first challenge is the connectivity and the infrastructure challenge. One of the main hurdles faced by developing countries is the lack of basic infrastructure, particularly in remote areas. Insufficient electricity supply, limited connectivity, and inadequate hardware is one of the most pervasive issues. So in remote areas, especially in remote areas, people find it hard to connect their internet to signals and all that. That is why in remote areas like in the Alps, it is very difficult to find a signal to call or maybe to search on, maybe to use the internet. Also, institutions who use educational technology need to have televisions and radios and all of those expensive infrastructure. But many disadvantaged areas like in Africa can find it very challenging in order to purchase all these necessary hardware. In this regard, Dr. Kofi Annan, Secretary and the General of the UN, emphasizes that without a reliable infrastructure, effective, scalable, and sustainable use of educational technology becomes nearly impossible. So what she's saying here is that without all the necessary equipment in order to assist with the educational content that is being transferred to the children, to the students, it is necessarily worthless because they need assistance in their educational content, and without all these necessary machines or even lack of them can produce poorer results than having a full set of them. But according to the World Bank, around 3 billion people in developing countries lack access to the internet. That is because, one, their area is not very advantageous to the connectivity of the internet, and second, they don't have enough expenditure to spend on expensive machines like radio or television or maybe even the internet. But don't worry, there is a solution to this. But the important thing with this solution is that everybody have the power or is willing to implement them instead of just waiting for others to do it. So the solution for this particular challenge is to deploy low-cost technology solutions and implement policies to expand internet coverage. And this can address the connectivity challenge. So this is low cost because African countries find it very difficult to purchase expensive solutions to their problem. So they need to implement policies for expanding internet coverage. Maybe just a little more and it can be fine. People in Africa find it very difficult to connect to the internet, and even the slightest sign of connectivity can help them a lot, For instance, initiatives like the One Laptop Per Child project in Lugari, which provided 400,000 laptops to students and teachers, have effectively tackled this issue. The computer companies have provided thousands of computers to students and even to teachers so that they can find their teaching and their studying more accessible, for more convenient and more understanding. A study conducted by the World Bank also found the students in rural India who had access to computer-based and computer-assisted learning tools achieve higher success in subjects like mathematics and language tests than their counterparts. This has shown that technology has played a very vital and big part in a student's educational career. Okay, now let's move on to the second challenge. It has nothing to do with the area, it has nothing to do with the expenditure, but it has something to do with the amount of experience. So this problem is the teacher training and the capacity building. A significant challenge lies in equipping teachers with the necessary skills to effectively harness educational technology. So, if teachers cannot drive and control their educational content, the tools, the equipment, the expenditure spent on all the equipments to provide effective education for children is necessarily worthless. It is unnecessary if the teacher don't know how to control or use them effectively. Teachers, according to UNESCO or UNESCO, harness varying teachers' varying skill levels and limited access to training and resources hinder their ability to utilize technology effectively. Teachers in cities like in New York City or in this country, they have pretty much experience with the internet and they can effectively drive a very good lesson with the assistance of these clever machineries. But with teachers maybe in Africa or in poorer countries who have limited experience and access to the internet can find it extremely challenging and can face obstacles in directing their class to a successive and an enjoyable lesson because they do have no experience themselves. Lack of experience lead to lack of training. Lack of experience lead to lack of lack of training. So it means that the lack of training lead to lack of enjoyment and lack of expertise in this particular field. In this technology field, it's important that everybody grasps what it is because everything in technology can be very complex and quite hard. It is quite hard to understand. Lack of training and support results in teachers being unable to leverage technology to enhance instructional purposes. UNESCO or UNESCO even reports that 65% of primary school teachers in sub-Saharan Africa have never even used or touched a computer. This shows that teachers in these developing countries have no experience or limited experience whatsoever with technology, leading to limited access to their educational content. And even if they are equipped with the most expensive and the most cutting-edge equipment possible, without adequate training, they will never grasp what is going on. So there is a solution to this. Prioritizing teacher training programs is extremely important. These programs must focus on digital literacy and pedagogical integration of technology which can enable educators to become proficient in using educational tools. So people must establish technology training classes so that teachers can grasp what is going on before they teach their students. Now, I believe that with our collaboration from between governments and countries worldwide, we can fill the gap of 65% of the teachers in Africa that have never used a computer before. For instance, in India, the ICT in education program has trained thousands of teachers, improving their capacity to employ technology in classrooms. Also, an UNESCO report highlighted the positive impact of teacher training programs on incorporating EdTech in classrooms, leading to improved students' engagement and learning outcomes. So this study have proved that these training programs has really have a big effect on the educational content and the teachers' knowledge themselves. Teachers aren't born to only teach, they have to learn as well. So first they must learn how to incorporate their class into an enjoyable and a successive lesson using with the assistance of these clever assistants. Okay, so the third problem is the content localization and adaptation. Okay, so the teachers got enough training, we have enough equipment, but what about the content that we add into these educational technologies or educational content, educational tools? Many EdTech platforms and resources are developed by Western providers or companies, often failing to resonate with the cultural and the linguistic diversity of developing nations. So, for instance, an app that is created to assist teachers in transferring educational content. But what content is allowed there? Maybe Western providers have developed this particular app but it doesn't include enough tools, enough content, enough cultural and linguistic diversity of developing nations in order to cope with all the children around the world. UNESCO highlights that the lack of local content and non-adaptability hinder the effectiveness of educational technology. I won't deny this because it is true. The lack of local content, of appropriate content in education, and the non-adaptability to the linguistic diversity, and also the cultural diversity of these developing nations can result in these technology equipment necessarily worthless. So the solution is to encourage the creation of localized educational content through partnerships with local institutions, governments, and communities. And this can address this huge gap in the content aid gap. So first, we need the collaboration of different companies, of different governments, of different communities in order to work on the appropriate content and appropriate apps for developing countries to use. Initiatives like Khan Academy, which collaborates with local organizations to develop multilingual content, have effectively overcome this challenge, as it is widespread. In general, it doesn't focus on one particular type of cultural and linguistic diversity of each country, so this can be appropriate for children worldwide. Last but not least challenge is the sustainable funding, the expenditure, which is extremely important. Sustained financing for EdTech presents another hurdle. Limited financial resources in developing nations often result in insufficient investment in technology infrastructure, software, and educational resources. So the lack of infrastructure has resulted in the lack of the lack of expenditure has resulted in the lack of infrastructure and connectivity, because developing nations are still struggling with the economical and financial problems, and if they find it extremely challenging to incorporate expensive tools necessary for students in order to grasp what the lesson is about with the assistance of educational technology. So this often results in insufficient investments, and that can lead to very poor results. Luckily, we have solutions here. It is crucial to secure funding through partnerships with the private sector, governments, and international organizations. The Global Partnership for Education, for instance, supports educational technology projects in developing countries by mobilizing resources from various stakeholders. This solution can successfully address the funding problem, which is one of the most worrying problems today. So in conclusion, although significant challenges persist in adapting educational technology in developing countries like Africa, viable solutions have demonstrated promising results. As we tackle these hurdles, it is crucial for us to memorize and to remember Nelson Mandela's inspiring words. Education is the most powerful tool which you can use to change the world.